What if your business was so well designed, it could run like clockwork, whether you were there or not? In this final episode of Season 1 of The Bookish Mind, we explore Gerber's franchise prototype, the ultimate step in turning a job into a truly scalable business. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a concept that Michael E. Gerber, in his classic book, The E-Myth Revisited, calls it the most important news in business.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is, and we're
Oh.
diving deep into Chapter 8, which is all about this idea, the franchise prototype.
That's right. So our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack this powerful idea. We want to get into why Gerber thinks it's so crucial,
Yeah, why that label?
Exactly. And explore how it works in practice. We'll definitely talk about maybe the most famous example out there, Ray Kroc's McDonald's.
Oh, for sure. Can't talk about systems without talking McDonald's.
Right. And then ultimately connect it back to you listening. What does this all mean for building a business that, actually works for you? So you can maybe step away from the constant day-to-day grind.
Because isn't that the dream? Or maybe the struggle for so many business owners. They start out, maybe they're fantastic at baking or coding or fixing things.
The technician role he talks about?
Exactly, the
Yeah.
technician. But somewhere along the line, they don't build a business. They just build themselves a job. A really demanding job, usually.
One that needs them there all the time, putting out fires.
Yeah. And the core problem the franchise prototype is designed to solve, at least according to Gerber, is that incredibly high failure rate we see in traditional small businesses.
Businesses that just stay totally dependent on the owner, right? They don't have the structure, the system to work without that one key person.
Gerber's argument is that most owners are just too busy working in the business doing the technical stuff instead of working on the business, building those systems.
And the prototype is pitched as the way out, the way to build that business that can work without you needing to be there every second.
Okay, so let's dig into the evidence he presents. He starts right off with some pretty startling statistics about franchises versus independent businesses.
Yeah, the numbers really do grab your attention. He talks about reported data showing business format franchises, that specific type, having, get this, a 95% success rate over 1 year.
95% success in the first year. That just sounds almost impossible in the small business world.
It's incredibly high. Now, contrast that, like you said, with new independent businesses. The source mentions a failure rate of over 50% in the same year.
Wow. So more than half of independent startups fail in year one, while 95% of these business format franchises make it.
It's a massive gap right from the start.
And it doesn't get better over time for the independents, does it?
No, it actually gets worse. If you look out 5 years, the source suggests something like 80% of all businesses fail within those first 5 years.
80%. That's 4 out of 5 businesses gone in 5 years.
Yeah.
Just wow.
It's a tough statistic. But here's the kicker. Look at those business format franchises again over the same 5 years. Their success rate, around 75%.
Hold on. So independent businesses are looking at an 80% failure rate, while these franchises have a 75% success rate.
Basically, yeah. It's almost a complete reversal, a flip from probably failing to probably succeeding.
Okay, now I see why he calls it the most important news in business. That difference in outcome is just undeniable. It suggests there's something fundamentally different happening.
Precisely. It's like empirical proof saying, look, here's a way of building a business that dramatically increases your odds.
And he's very clear about why this happens. It's not magic. It's not luck.
Nope. He pins it directly on one thing, the franchise prototype. The success, he argues, is because of this underlying model. It's the way the business is designed and operated.
All right, so let's define this thing. What is the franchise prototype? Because it sounds like more than just a manual or a checklist. Gerber gets almost philosophical about it.
He does. For the person creating the franchise, the franchisor, he calls it the working model of the dream, or the dream in microcosm.
The dream in microcosm, like a perfect little scale model of the big vision.
Exactly that. Imagine you dream of this amazing chain of, bookstores. The prototype is that one single bookstore where everything, the layout, the service, the inventory system, the coffee corner, everything works perfectly, exactly as you envisioned it.
Okay, so it's the ideal version, brought to life on a small scale.
Yes, and he also calls it the incubator and the nursery for all creative thought, which I think is really interesting.
Incubator.nursery. So it's where ideas are born and grow.
Right, but not just allowed to run wild. He says creativity is nursed by pragmatism in the prototype.
Nursed by pragmatism. I like that. So creative ideas have to actually, work in the real world.
That's the key. The prototype turns raw creativity into innovation that works. It's the bridge between a cool idea scribbled on a napkin and a reliable process that gets results day in, day out. It's where ideas get tested against reality.
Tested before they become company policy everywhere else.
Precisely. He calls the prototype a buffer between hypothesis and action. It's the lab. You have an assumption. I think customers would like X, or we could be more efficient if we did Y.
Right.
You don't just roll it out, you test it rigorously in the prototype environment. You see how well they work in practice, not just in theory or in a meeting room argument.
And the only thing that matters is,
Yeah,
does it work?
that's the ultimate question. Does it work? That's the only criterion of value.
Yeah.
Does it achieve the intended result predictably, reliably, efficiently? If yes, great. If no, you tweak it or ditch it. No ego allowed.
It forces honesty about what actually produces results.
Exactly. And once you've done that testing, that refining, and you've proven it works in the prototype,
Yeah.
then you have something solid, a process you can document, replicate, teach.
Which leads directly to that core principle, the sort of mantra of the whole thing. The system runs the business. The people run the system.
That phrase is absolutely central, and it's a huge mind shift for most small business owners, isn't it? Moving away from relying on individual brilliance or specific people being there.
Especially the owner themselves.
Especially the owner. The goal is to make the system the crucial asset. The people are then trained to operate that system effectively. The business doesn't fall apart if one person calls in sick, or even if the owner goes on vacation.
Because the system keeps things going.
Correct. And the prototype is the workshop where that whole system is imagined, built, tested, tweaked, integrated, and perfected. It's where the operational DNA of the business is created.
And this system, born in the prototype, becomes the answer to all those classic business problems: inconsistency, unpredictability, quality issues, scaling difficulties.
Yeah, the source talks about the system integrating all the different parts needed for the business to work smoothly. It stops being just a collection of random tasks people do.
He uses an interesting analogy. Not just a machine, but an organism.
Right. Thinking of it as an organism highlights that it's dynamic, interconnected. It's alive in the sense that all the parts work together towards a shared goal.
Like different organs in a body working together.
Exactly. Think about marketing, sales, operations, finance, customer service. In a poorly systematized business, they can feel separate, sometimes even pulling in different directions.
Oh, no, definitely. Been there.
We all have. The system, perfected in the prototype, is like the central nervous system. It coordinates everything, ensuring all parts work in concert toward a realized objective. Every function supports the others to deliver that consistent value.
And because it was tested and proven in the prototype, it actually works, unlike some grand plan cooked up in isolation.
That's the idea. It has integrity because it's been battle tested.
Yeah.
It's the solution to problems that have, as Gerber puts it, plagued businesses since time immemorial.
It's a compelling idea. To really get it, though, we probably need to look at that prime example.
Absolutely. You can't really discuss the franchise prototype without diving into Ray Kroc's McDonald's. Gerber uses it as the ultimate case study.
And the level of detail he describes is just mind-boggling.
It really is. McDonald's didn't just randomly open stores. They obsessed over every single detail of the business system in their prototype store. And through that, they achieved this incredible level of control, even in a business that's all about people serving people.
You just wouldn't think fast food could be that systematized.
But they proved it could.
Hmm.
And it was through focusing on things that might seem tiny, almost trivial. Let's talk specifics from the source. The French fries.
Ah, yes, the famous fries.
Left in the warming bin for no more than 7 minutes. 7.
Why 7? Seems so specific.
To prevent sogginess, Gerber hammers this point.
Yeah.
A soggy fry was unacceptable. It wasn't a McDonald's fry, it sounds obsessive, but it was about guaranteeing that consistent quality, that predictable experience every single time, everywhere.
Consistency was everything.
Totally. Or the burgers pulled from the hot trays after no more than 10 minutes. Why? To keep them moist.
Another time limit for quality.
Exactly. And the meat patties themselves. Frozen, yes, but precisely identical in size and weight. No variation allowed. They were even turned on the griddle at exactly the same point in the cooking process.
They systematized the burger flip.
They did. And this one always gets me. The pickles.
The pickles. What about the pickles?
They were placed on the bun by hand, but listen to this, in a set pattern.
A pattern for pickles. Why?
The source says it was to stop them sliding out of the bun, to avoid them potentially landing on the customer.
No way. They designed a pickle placement system to prevent messy eating and ensure the burger looked the same every time. That's next-level thinking.
Isn't it? It shows the depth of thought about the entire customer experience built into the operational system. And all this detail, this precision, it enabled speed. Food served in 60 seconds or less.
60 seconds in that era.
Yeah.
That must have seemed like light speed.
Revolutionary. And it was all built on these hyper-controlled processes. The source boils down their philosophy to 3 words: discipline, standardization, and order.
Discipline, standardization, order. Sounds intense.
It was. And it wasn't just the food. Cleanliness was enforced with the same meticulous attention. The whole environment, every step, was part of the system.
It sounds incredibly rigid, but the result was that amazing consistency and efficiency people came to expect.
And that consistency was directly tied to Kroc's vision. He was determined, the source says, that customers wouldn't equate inexpensive with inattentive or cheap. He wanted value, speed, and quality.
And the system was the only way to guarantee all 3 at scale.
Right. It became the promise. The system guaranteed the customer that her expectations would be fulfilled in exactly the same way every time. Go to any McDonald's, you knew what you were getting.
Which built massive trust and loyalty over time.
Immense. And this whole approach was radically different from how franchising worked before then, right?
Yeah, Gerber distinguishes it from the older trade name franchise.
In that older model, maybe you licensed the name Howard Johnson's, but how you ran your motel, largely up to you. Lots of discretion.
Kroc went the other way.
Completely the opposite. His system gave the franchisee as little operating discretion as possible.
Which sounds like a negative, maybe. Don't entrepreneurs want discretion?
You'd think so.
Mm-hmm.
But from Kroc's perspective, discretion meant variability. And variability was the enemy of the predictable, consistent experience he was promising.
So, less franchisee freedom meant more customer consistency.
That was the trade-off. To guarantee the brand promise, the system had to be followed, period. And they didn't just hand over a manual, they enforced it through intense training before anyone opened a store.
Hamburger you.
The University of Hamburgerology. Sounds fun, but it was deadly serious. Franchisees didn't go there just to learn burger flipping.
No, they learned the system, right?
Exactly. They learned how to run the system that makes hamburgers. The focus wasn't the technical skill in isolation. It was mastering the whole operational system that produced the consistent result and satisfied customers every single time.
That's such a key distinction. It's not about being the best cook. It's about running the best cooking system.
Precisely. And that system, perfected and teachable, was the foundation of McDonald's incredible success. It wasn't just Ray Kroc being brilliant. It was his brilliance in designing and implementing the system.
Which leads to that idea of the turnkey operation.
Yeah, the name says it all, doesn't it? You, the franchisee, license the right to use this perfected system. You go to Hamburger U and learn exactly how to run it. Then you get the keys to your location. You just
Turn the key.
turn the key. And as Gerber puts it, the business does the rest.
Wow. The heavy lifting of figuring out how to make it all work is already done.
That's the promise. All the trial and error, the refinement, the problem solving that happened in the prototype phase, led by the franchisor. The franchisee's job is simply to execute the proven playbook.
And Gerber says franchisees actually love this model, which might seem odd given the lack of discretion. Why?
Because if the franchisor did their job right in building the prototype system, then every problem has been thought through.
Ah, so all the common headaches are already solved.
Ideally, yes. Think about inventory control, scheduling, quality checks, customer complaints, equipment maintenance, all the things that drive independent owners crazy. A good franchise system has procedures, standards, and solutions built in for all of that.
So the franchisee isn't constantly reinventing the wheel or putting out fires.
Right. They don't have to figure it all out from scratch. They just need to learn how to manage the system that already anticipates and handles most issues. That predictability is incredibly valuable.
That sounds way less stressful than the chaos many small businesses operate in.
Exactly. And that right there is the whole point of the franchise prototype. It's the dedicated space, the lab, the workshop where you design, build, test, and perfect that system, where you discover what works because you've worked it.
What works because you've worked it. I like that emphasis on practical, hands-on discovery, not just theory.
Yeah, it's crucial. He stresses that the system isn't some abstract thing you just bolt onto the business. It's something you derive from the process of building the business itself.
It grows out of the actual work.
Out of the messy reality of trying things, seeing what happens, adjusting, trying again. Experimentation, measurement, failure, learning, refining. iteratively building the sequence of steps that consistently gets the result you want. The prototype is where all that happens systematically.
It's the answer to that classic small business owner dilemma. How do I give the customer what they want consistently while still keeping control of the business?
By building the system. The system delivers the consistent customer experience, which builds loyalty, and the system provides the operational control, removing reliance on individuals and guesswork.
And this whole approach, this prototype model, it ties back neatly to those three personalities Gerber keeps talking about: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician.
Yes, it provides a structure where all three can actually coexist and contribute effectively rather than constantly being in conflict, which is often the case for a solo owner.
Okay, let's walk through that. How does the prototype serve the entrepreneur, the visionary?
For the entrepreneur, the prototype is the way their vision becomes real. It's the medium through which his vision takes form in the real world. They have the big idea, the dream, but dreams don't run businesses.
Right. Ideas are cheap. Execution is hard.
Exactly. The prototype process takes that entrepreneurial spark and translates it into a tangible, working, operational model. It channels their creativity through that pragmatic testing process we talked about. It proves the vision can work reliably.
It makes the dream concrete and testable.
Mm.
Got it. What about a manager, the one who likes order and planning?
Oh, the manager loves the prototype process. Their whole world is about order, the predictability, the system. That's what the prototype is designed to create.
So the process itself suits them.
Perfectly. Building a prototype requires detailed planning, documenting processes, measuring results, analyzing data, all things the manager personality thrives on, and the end result: a stable, predictable system that they can then manage effectively. It creates the structured environment they need.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And finally, the technician, the person who just loves doing the actual work, the craft.
For the technician, the system created by the prototype is liberating. It makes it a place where they are free to do the things he loves to do, technical work.
How so? Don't systems sometimes feel restrictive to craftspeople?
They can if designed poorly. But think about the typical technician owner. They're constantly pulled away from their craft to deal with sales calls, bookkeeping, marketing, HR issues, supplier problems, all the stuff they often dislike and aren't great at.
Because there's no system for any of that.
Right. The franchise prototype aims to build systems for all of it: the marketing system, the sales system, the admin system, the operational system. By systematizing everything else, the technician is freed up. They can focus their energy on perfecting their part of the operational system, doing the technical work they enjoy, knowing the rest is handled.
So the system supports them, rather than them having to support the entire chaotic business.
Exactly. They get to practice their craft within a well-defined, supportive structure.
So for that solo business owner who feels like they're juggling those three personalities constantly, feeling pulled in all directions,
The franchise prototype offers a path towards balance. It's the means through which he can finally feed his three personalities in a balanced way.
the entrepreneur gets their vision realized, the manager gets their order, the technician gets to do their work.
And crucially, it shifts the owner's focus. Instead of being trapped in the technician role 24/7, they can spend more time working on the business, designing, refining, and managing the system, the entrepreneur-manager roles. That's how you create a business that works independently.
This model, the prototype, it's not just for businesses planning to sell franchises in the legal sense, is it? Gerber makes a bigger point.
Absolutely not. That's maybe the most important takeaway for many listeners. He explicitly says, the franchise prototype is the model you've been looking for. The franchise prototype is the model of a business that works, the balanced model.
So it's a universal model for a working business.
Yes, and he argues this model has been there all this time, underpinning the success of tons of great companies, whether they call themselves franchises or not.
He lists examples like Federal Express, Disney World.
Mrs. Fields Cookies, Subway, Domino's, KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, UPS, Universal Studios. The list goes on.
Think about FedEx or UPS.
Yeah.
You don't buy a FedEx franchise, right?
No. But is their operation unbelievably systematized? Predictable? Standardized? You bet it is. That whole global logistics network is a massive, incredibly refined operating system.
Or Disney World. It's all about the guest experience system. Every detail is planned and managed.
Exactly. So the common thread running through all these successful businesses, franchise or not, is what Gerber terms the proprietary operating system.
Proprietary operating system, that's a broader concept.
Yes, he defines it as a proprietary way of doing business. Their unique, tested, refined method that successfully and preferentially differentiates every extraordinary business from every one of its competitors. It's their secret sauce, their operational blueprint.
The system is their competitive advantage.
In large part, yes. It allows them to deliver consistent value predictably. And this leads Gerber to that really bold statement.
The one where he says,
Every great business in the world is a franchise.
which sounds crazy at first, but he means it in this operational sense, right?
Exactly. Not legally, but functionally. They all operate based on a perfected proprietary system, their own version of a franchise prototype outcome. They've systematized their success, so it doesn't depend on heroic individuals, but on the reliability of the system itself.
That completely reframes it.
Yeah.
It makes this relevant to anyone trying to build a lasting business, even a single small shop or service.
It's about building your business as if you were going to franchise it, even if you never intend to. Build the system first, prove it works in your prototype environment, and then run your business using that proven system.
Which brings us to the million-dollar question, the one Gerber throws out there at the end of the chapter, aimed right at the listener feeling overwhelmed.
How do you build yours?
Yeah, how do you put this powerfully liberating idea to work for you?
How do you create your franchise prototype?
How do you, like Ray Kroc, build a business that works predictably, effortlessly, and profitably each and every day? These are the big how-to questions.
Leading to the ultimate goals for the owner, how do you build a business that works without you?
And maybe the most appealing one for someone feeling trapped. How do you get free of your business to live a fuller life?
Those questions really lay bare the potential transformation. Because the alternative, if you don't do this,
This is pretty stark, he says it point blank.
because until you do it, your business will control your life. Simple as that. If the business needs you for everything, you don't own a business, you own a job that owns you.
That's a harsh reality check, but probably resonates with a lot of people listening. It highlights why this prototype thinking is so critical.
But there's hope, that's the flip side. But once you begin to put this idea to work for you, you're on the way to being free. It's not instant, it's a process, but it's a process towards freedom, towards a business that functions because of its design, its system.
It makes me think of Sarah, the pie lady character in the book. She has that aha moment.
Yeah, she finally got it. She realized she didn't need to become Ray Kroc. She just needed to apply the same thinking to her pie shop, build her system. She realized she could do it. She just had to learn how for her specific business. And that's the potential insight for everyone listening. Your industry doesn't matter. The scale doesn't matter. The principle of building a proprietary operating system using a prototype approach applies everywhere. It's about shifting your mindset
From being the best doer.
to being the best designer of the system that ensures the doing gets done right every time, no matter who's doing it.
And the franchise prototype is just the name for that dedicated process of figuring out how your system needs to work. Testing, measuring, refining piece by piece.
Exactly. It's iterative. You document process A. You test it. Does it work consistently? No. Okay, why not? What failed? You adjust the process. Document the new version. Test that. Okay, now it works reliably. Great. Lock it down. Move on to process B, making sure it connects smoothly with A.
Build it brick by brick, system by system.
That's the way. So wrapping up our deep dive on Chapter 8, the big idea is this. The franchise prototype isn't really about franchising in the legal sense. It's the fundamental strategy for building any business that you want to work predictably, profitably, and ultimately without needing you there all the time.
It's the way to turn that job you accidentally created back into the asset you dreamed of. Building that proprietary operating system, piece by piece in your own prototype environment, is how you get predictability, profitability, and that freedom everyone's chasing.
Couldn't have said it better. It's about designing the business to serve your life, not the other way around.
So as we leave you with a final thought for today, really connect this back to your business right now. What's the single most frustrating thing? The task that always goes wrong, the bottleneck that drives you crazy, the inconsistent result that customers complain about, that one thing.
Pick just one.
How could you start building a simple, repeatable system, just a tiny piece of your own prototype, just for that one thing? Think about McDonald's and the fries or the pickles. How could obsessing over designing, testing, and refining a process for your biggest headache start to solve it?
How could that one small system give you back a little bit of control, a little predictability, maybe even a little taste of that freedom?
It starts small, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Document it, test it, refine it, teach it.
That's the first step. That one process is the beginning of building your prototype and building a business that truly works.
A really powerful concept, hiding in plain sight. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.